Ahoy!
Welcome back to Girl Historians.
I'm Carley.
I'm Blair.
And this is the comedy podcast where we talk about history and our girls.
This is our first recording episode of 2025.
Which fake year, by the way?
It is a
That's
fake year.
That's a fake-ass year.
Someone tweeted like, oh my god, this like dystopian-ass year. Like this like futuristic-ass year. And I'm like, yeah, it does feel like something.
Like we're in Blade Runner.
2025. Well, oh my god, did you see that the movie Her is set in 2025?
No, I didn't. That's
so
really funny.
where is my AI girlfriend?
This is my big theory. I always think because people just seemingly get old and then become bigoted because the times move further than they are.
And you'll be anti-robot?
This is the thing. I think I'm going to have a child and my child is going to date a robot. They're going to have an AI girlfriend.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm going to be like, so are you like battery operated or like you charge? And my kid's going to be like, you can't ask that, mom.
Yeah. It's like, so who's the man? Who's the girl? Who's the boy?
Yeah, I'm still asking who's the man.
Yeah,
to
exactly. To the robot. The robot is now a gender.
Yeah, exactly.
The robot's the boy.
Well, and the robot is the boy because it's logical.
The robot's the boy, even if it's the robots with a boy.
Because humans are just inherently, I think, more feminine than machinery.
Exactly. Machines are boys, humans are girls.
And we've been saying this.
And we've been saying this for years.
Yes.
No, this is like the other Twitter thing that was going around was that there was that like headline from like 2013 or something that was like, by 2025, more women will be having sex with robots than with men. And everyone on Twitter was like, one more month. One more month.
Things are coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, but I'm excited for 2025. Kind of goated, I think, probably.
I think so too. I had a pretty good 2024 until the end, which I think I just burnt myself out. Like, I don't think that's anyone's, like, it's not the year's fault that I like.
You had a good 2024 till the end?
Yeah, till December, and then my brain shut down.
Oh, okay, I see.
But like, 2024 was pretty good, but I have high hopes. Usually, I feel like I vibe more. Honestly, thinking back, odd number years I think are much better for me than even number years, even though 2024 was rocked. So watch this space.
Wait, you make really like a good point if I'm thinking with my brain.
2027 was big year for me.
Yeah, 2027.
Oh yeah, 2017.
2027 was huge.
When Blair showed up to my apartment to record today, we were both just like, hey.
Yeah, Carley opened the door and was like, this doesn't feel right. I was like, oh, okay.
It doesn't feel real. Like,
we haven't recorded in literally so long.
Yeah.
Like in
and we still see each other all the time, but it's almost like, and you know, people have said this when they've like run into us in public spaces after like at a movie theater or something. Like we podcast to each other,
it's called having conversation.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, when people are like, famous painters are like, I would paint for no one if no one was watching. It's not about that or whatever.
That's us, but with podcasting.
Yeah, we just
I
podcast.
Agree. Yeah, we just podcast
every day.
We
saw Conclave.
Oh my god, so good.
Yes, I do want to say, because we're getting a lot of influx people to the podcast who are then commenting being like, we've talked about this, but like, why are they talking so much in the beginning? We're gonna talk for like 20 minutes, so if you just want the content, skip 20 minutes.
Skip to like 25 minutes
and you'll get the content, like, swear to God.
We are half and half podcasts. This is like going into 2025, it's fun because I feel like we've really settled on the format of the podcast, and if you've been here since when we were Truth-tanic, you know that we were very much, every single episode was the Titanic.
Yes.
Now,
in a big way.
In a way that, did we have maybe too many topics?
Yeah.
Maybe.
But I like those episodes. I agree.
No, they're great.
That I understand why they're not for everybody, because it's truly just like info dump. It's like your friend forcing you to talk about.
And we're here for
the
another
airtight
3
holes.
hours talking about the airtight holes.
Yeah. Like, I get that. Not everybody wants that. But yeah, I think we've hit a good format. It's just good for people to know that, like, and maybe that's what we'll just start doing in the very beginning, being like, girl, if this is your first episode listening to Girl Historians, you need to go to 20 minutes in.
Yeah,
because I like when podcasts are chatty. Like, I like just like following people's lives. I'm a voyeur. Like, I'm nosy. I
need to know what people are doing.
Yeah. But I understand also you want content, so it's like half and half. That's what I like. But some people will obviously just like look up the topic. Yeah. And then be like,
and you'll see it.
Well, because Spotify's introduced comments, bane of my fucking existence.
That is
why Spotify.
Thank you for commenting nice things. I actually think that like everyone should never comment anything mean towards us ever.
Yeah. And I think that should be the world's 2025 goal.
And to be honest, like the girls are usually, all of you listening to this podcast now, usually you're pretty sweet about giving us like a mean comment.
Yeah, it'll be constructive criticism in, I think, a way that isn't like, you know, it's easy to discount something if it's just like actually vile.
Yeah.
Where it's not that.
We've gotten comments from you guys that we've really taken into account. We might
Yeah.
not always like.
I stopped interrupting.
You stopped interrupting. That was huge.
That was
in
big-
the Truth Tannic days.
I did. I was just so excited, but I also, but that was again a comment where I was like, unfair. Like, you know.
And there was light in your eyes in those days.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
But yeah, so I think like we'll still do our overarching seasons of like one historical thing we're researching, but then we'll have one-off episodes all the time now.
Yeah, and I think that'll be better for people if people like aren't into the Tudors and they
Yes.
don't want to hear about the ex-wives of Henry VIII.
Yes.
They can still enjoy these mini ones in between.
Like when we do today, we're gonna do Bob Dylan.
I've been watching this K-drama called When the Weather is Fine, and it's about like this woman who's burnt out. She's a cello teacher, and then she moves back to
Real.
her small town in the
Whoa.
winter because she's like burnt out or whatever. And it's like a cold, like wintry vibe, and it's so funny because they're having like a big cold snap, and it is like cold, but they'll be like, "Oh my god, it's 6 Celsius right now,"
Oh my god!
and I'm like, "Yeah, like cold."
Oh, so you mean a beautiful spring day?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's like cold, but like, is it? I
don't
honestly,
think
I want to
so.
go to Korea. I want to go to Japan. So
Oh, I would love
I
to
know
go to
that
Korea.
like even when I go to Spain, I find it hard to navigate not speaking the language,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to like learn a different alphabet. But it's so beautiful.
Maybe this is me being ignorant, but I do feel like if you went to
I
like
speak English.
well, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's like I feel like Spain is kind of like they're Spain, and they've got like they're less of like a global country. You
But
know
like
what I mean?
Tokyo is receiving tourists.
Well, it's like Tokyo also is like so global. Like it's such a global city.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
agree.
do think it's the same. Like you could come to Toronto and speak
Not
almost any language.
Yeah, and you can kind of just get it.
Yeah, you could figure it out.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Spain is not like that in the same way that like I will go to Montreal being able to read French and I'm still like I do not know where I am. Like,
Yeah,
it's,
exactly.
It's not global in the same way.
No, I agree. And I think I would really like it. I've been I'm big into I think I'm gonna I'm changing the way I'm gonna do YouTube this year. And I've been really into like people's Patreons because now that we've been doing the podcast Patreon, where I'm not gonna do it, but I'm going to do like one video on YouTube, one video on Patreon, because then I can make stuff on things that I like.
That's fun.
And we'll talk about it later. It's not interesting to other people, but there's ways you can like link them too, where it's like we can do some kind of deal or something where if people want to join mine in the podcast, they can like do that. Although the
that's little
podcast one is kind
2-for-1.
of popping off.
Yeah.
But it's because I've been like absolutely mainlining Jenny Nicholson's Patreon into my
Real.
eyeballs. So good. And she's just created this model. Nobody cares about content creation the way I do, but she's created like the futuristic model for like long form content where it's like, it's all about audience maintaining. Like once you create an audience, you can just make content specifically for them,
Yeah.
not for the algorithm. It's really fascinating. But she talks about theme parks all the time. And I'm like, is 2025 the year I become like a Disney adult? Like a theme park adult? Like I
You want to
want
go to Tokyo Disney?
we
This
should
is,
go to Disney World.
yeah,
I
I'd love
think
to.
that would be fun.
I think it'd be so
The
fun.
last time I went to Disney World was for the Orlando Comedy Festival,
What?
and I went with
That's
my
crazy.
like duo improv partner, and then we went to Epcot, and her boyfriend broke up with her in like
Oh.
Germany on the phone.
Oh, rough.
That was
Okay.
fucked up though.
No,
we had
that's
like
bad.
one best of the festival for what we had done or whatever. And he didn't like congratulate her and then like broke up with her. It was really messed up. It was like, but
That's
I was like, and I was like
messy.
eating this nasty thing they made where it was like a sweet dumpling. It was like a dumpling full of frosting.
Okay.
But I just had to like sit next to her while she's like on the phone crying, like petting her,
Oh my god.
while also being like, I want to throw this shit out so bad.
That's evil.
So I need to create some good memories.
Yeah. Let's go to the theme parks.
Yeah.
I'm so down.
Wouldn't that be fun?
It would be fun. I think there's like a line between like Disney adult and people that are like into theme parks. Because I think that theme parks are really cool. I love Defunct Land.
Yes. Yeah.
Should we just get into the topic?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Awesome. So today we're doing a little chatty episode on Bob Dylan, inspired by the release of A Complete Unknown.
Yes.
Capitalizing on it. And also because we lost our 10th icon of
Genghis
the icons,
Khan.
Genghis Khan.
May
He
he
didn't
rest.
guess it was Genghis Khan. And you know what? We didn't need to platform him more.
No, we need to deplatform him.
It's crazy.
It's crazy Genghis Khan didn't get Me Too'd.
I know. We should Me Too Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
Because he needs to pay for his sins
Definitely.
and his crimes. He definitely did a lot of horrible things.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, he definitely killed
And raped.
and raped and pillaged.
Oh, yeah.
Some may even say pillaged.
I'm doing a low pillage year this year
Yeah, I'm trying not to pillage.
for my footprint. You know,
For your-
my
for your-
carbon footprint.
yeah.
footprint.
My
having a
carbon
stroke, by the way.
footprint.
I'm dying.
My friend the other day said a crazy thing, which was trying to say like my culture is not your costume, and said my costume is not my culture.
My costume is not my culture.
Yeah, and I was like, damn, I guess that's
40 and slip, man.
not wrong.
No.
Damn. Anyway, let's get into this. We're gonna do a chatty little Bob Dylan episode because, to be honest, guys, he's got a pretty normal career for a musician.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of just like records a lot of songs and plays a lot of music, and I know you have strong feelings on Bob Dylan.
Definitely, we both saw the movie.
We both saw the movie.
Reese has a harmonica. Should I get that?
Also have a harmonica.
Woo,
Yeah, do you want to just blast harmonica into the mic?
We might not have our soundboard today.
But we have a harmonica.
Yes.
We should bring more instruments to recording.
I agree.
We don't have
We're not. We're too focused.
We're too focused. We should have more instruments.
Yes.
Okay, so Bob Dylan. He's born May 24th, Gemini, 1941.
He is actually so Gemini.
He is so Gemini. It's actually crazy because he's both folk and rock.
Mm-hmm. Two-faced.
Two faces. He grew up he was born as Robert Allen Zimmerman, and he grew up in a close-knit Jewish community.
In New Jersey?
No, in oh my god, like I want to say Minnesota. Like
Oh yeah, he's Midwest.
yeah, like he was Midwest, but he moved, I know, at one point.
Yeah.
Because his father got polio,
That's tough.
which is like that's so evocative of a time.
Yeah, it's
really.
old-timey disease.
Old-timey disease. What the polio? Yeah, so he was born in Minnesota. Nailed it. But then at one point they moved back to his mother's hometown of Hibbing, which is in also Minnesota. So
Oh, okay, never mind.
Just was always in Minnesota.
I guess I thought he was because in the movie he's like coming from New Jersey, so I guess I thought he was from there. But maybe that's Billy Joel.
he was actually Billy Joel.
Yeah.
He dropped out of at the beginning of the movie. He's dropped out of college, so maybe he's going to college in New Jersey. Let me check. I can check things due to this being on the internet. Oh my god, dropped out of college. I don't know where he was going to college. Probably somewhere stupid.
Well, if it's in New Jersey, there's not a lot of great universities in New Jersey.
Anyway,
No, I'm kidding. New Jersey, you're fine.
so he
I
grew
can
up in
look
a
this up.
close-knit
Let me
Jewish
just look up.
community. He grew up listening to a lot of the Grand Ole Opry, which is really funny.
I love that.
Yeah, and so he got into music pretty early, and he was like, "Whoa, this is amazing!" And then in high school, he was like really into rock and roll, and they play like rock and roll covers and stuff like that
Oh yeah.
at his school. And then he kind of transitioned out of that and into folk because he was like, folk is actually like deeper, and it's got like meaningful lyrics and stuff like that.
Well, this is also still at the time. I remember reading an interview with Timothy Chalamet said that he watched Walk Hard, a Dewey Cox story,
Oh,
which we've
so
both
good.
seen, which is like a Judd Apatow like musician kind of biopic parody film.
So good.
And they have a part in that where he plays like the like kind of Bob Dylan-esque character plays like the most basic doo-wop rock, and everybody in the crowd is like, "Oh my god, no!" Like they're freaking
Yeah.
out. And I feel like that was also still very much this time, and you know
Yeah.
we'll get to that later. But like people got so worked up at the most like middle of the road normal music.
Oh,
They
yeah.
couldn't believe it.
No, they couldn't deal with it. They were losing their minds.
Bob Dylan, would you believe that he had briefly attended the University of Minnesota? Where is New Jersey coming from?
I'm not because maybe because he was visiting Woody Guthrie in.
But in the movie, he comes in from New Jersey.
Does
and
he?
then he asks someone, because he asks, where is Woody Guthrie? And then someone at the bar is like, Woody's in New Jersey. And he goes,
Jersey.
I just came from there.
Well, didn't he? Well, maybe he came
I'm gonna
through
look
New
up-
Jersey.
I'm going to look up
Maybe
Bob
he
Dylan,
stopped in New
Jersey.
Jersey when he was hitchhiking. Anyway, he was maybe in New Jersey
He
in a
was at-
permanent or not
he
permanent
was-
basis.
Okay, did Bob Dylan ever explain why he was walking around New Jersey on Reddit? I'm peeking in windows. Wait, this is a separate thing. I don't know.
What?
Have you...
Oh, he's a peeping Tom. He's going through New Jersey looking at women through windows.
In 2009, Bob Dylan was detained in New Jersey after he wandered into the yard of a home that had a for sale sign on it. Not recognizing Bob Dylan, the home's occupants became spooked by his appearance and called 911.
In 2009.
Yeah, he was then taken to his tour bus where he had to verify his identity. I feel like even if he is Bob Dylan, he should. That's still.
You got to stay off people's lawns.
Yeah.
I never go on anyone's lawn.
I don't know why he was in New Jersey, but I guess he was.
I guess he was wandering around New Jersey.
Yeah, he was detained by the New Jersey police for that.
Oh my God.
Look
Okay.
at his mugshot. I know you guys can't see, but
It's
if you
actually getting arrested for going on a lawn is crazy.
yeah, that's so New Jersey coded, man.
So
Oh no, this is a Mick Jagger. Okay, I'm it's obviously like AI generated content where they're using
yeah.
like Mick Jagger's headshot
Oh,
or
weird.
mugshot for an article about Bob Dylan getting arrested. The
That's
internet is so
weird.
bad.
No, the internet is broken.
So he moves to New York.
He moves
Greenwich
to New
Village?
York. Yeah, he starts getting into the music scene there. He does want to go visit Woody Guthrie, who's like he's been inspired with, and
Yeah.
Woody Guthrie's in a psychiatric hospital, which is just too bad.
Because he has Huntington's. I looked this up afterwards because I was like, what the
Yeah,
fuck
I
does
looked
Woody
it up
Guthrie
too.
have? Same thing that Eve Babbitt's had.
Really? I don't know anything about
It's no joke.
Huntington's.
This is the only thing I looked it up because I read that Joan Didion and Eve Babbitt's book, and Eve, like her, it's a genetic disease. So she watched her dad die of it.
Oh my
It was
God.
like this interesting thing talking about how like she felt like she wasn't taken seriously because she didn't write about the serious things in her life.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of things going on. Like she was saying, like I'm watching my dad die of like what I'm going to die of,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
That's hard.
Where it basically just kind of like it's like a lot of this stuff like it eats your brain and
Oh my God.
you kind of like lose like I don't know, they didn't seem to have this happen with Woody Guthrie, but it did happen with Eve where like
Mhm.
she lost touch with reality. Like she thought she became like this MAGA Republican because she thought she was having an affair with Donald Trump, but like she wasn't. Do you know
Oh
what I
my
mean?
God. That's
But I think
awful. I
it in
didn't
some
know
way
about
kind of
that.
like eats your brain. So maybe it's like because she didn't have very many motor problems, but maybe
Mhm.
he seemed to have
motor
problems.
Yeah.
So
That's rough.
I know, and it's like genetic. So it's just like
oh my
you can.
God. That's awful.
I know.
That's horrible. So Bob Dylan starts playing in clubs in Greenwich Village
Yeah.
and just like generally getting into the music scene there,
Yeah.
which is like,
And he's writing and stuff.
yeah, he's writing. He eventually gets signed to Columbia Records and they get him to record basically a bunch of like folk songs,
Covers,
like just
yeah.
like covers, which is kind of like, we talked about this in the Beatles series too, but like something we've lost is that like this idea of just like recording artists getting picked up and like given kind of like a catalog of songs to pick from.
Yeah.
We don't really do that anymore.
Well, two things on this. I have a Linda Ronstadt album that's one of my faves, and it's just her singing a bunch of covers, like rock
Yeah.
covers. This is in like the 70s.
Oh, that's
even.
cool.
Like it's like Poor Pitiful Me, Tumbling Dice, like random shit.
But
they're great. And that was with Dolly Parton too. Like Dolly Parton basically wrote all of her songs, but would pick every like Here You Come Again is like written by
Yeah.
someone else. And it was a documentary I was watching about Dolly Parton. So it was a little different because she didn't pick a catalog, but talking about how like a lot of these big artists that we know who had these first records that are other people's songs, like it's a real skill. It's different than writing, but it's
Yeah.
also a real skill to pick songs
Mhm.
and like make your record.
Yeah.
Like it's a real skill to be like, these are the songs that
Yeah.
I'm gonna sound good in. They all have the same vibe. Here's the order they go in. Like it is also a skill. Like that Linda Ronstadt
sure.
record rips because she's got a great voice and she's singing these like very bluesy
Yeah.
kind of like all male songs, like all songs sung traditionally by
Yeah.
like male musicians. So it's like a wicked record where I'm sure there's other people who just like pick random stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, we don't really have like standards anymore. You know what I
No.
mean? Like having to go through and be like, okay, I'm going to do a folk record. Here's a bunch of like folk songs that
What do
are
you
like
think
in
should
the
be
canon.
a part of the modern
Ooh,
songbook?
part of the modern songbook.
Baby, why don't you just meet me in the middle?
There was one song that Begging. Do you know that song that I feel like I've heard so many covers of? I'm begging for you.
Well, this is kind of like the BBC thing where everybody covers different people. Like people love that. It's like Olivia
Yes.
Rodrigo doing Stick Season, Sabrina Carpenter doing Good Luck Babe, all this stuff.
yeah,
Like it's
I like
really
that.
fun to
Yeah.
see that.
I do think that like cover, well, even like something that we'll talk about with this like Bob Dylan stuff is like, and they showed in the movie, but like a lot of his songs got big through like bigger artists performing them, and they'd be
Yeah.
like, who wrote that? And it's like, oh, Bob Dylan, like
Yeah.
Joan Baez doing like covers of his songs
Yeah.
because she was more famous, really like propelled his career. We don't really have that in the same way.
No.
You know, it's interesting. I think bring it back.
Yes.
Bring it back.
I would love if someone released a cover album. I love covers. Even if just like modern songs. Like I think that's awesome.
Yeah, or even just like, oh, here's a band. I think it's kind of like are hyper focused on like people stealing each other's art.
I know. I agree. Let's talk about it.
Which I'm just kind of like, whatever happened to just kind of like sharing? Like,
well, okay, and nothing but love and light to the Toronto community. I love Toronto, you know this. But Monica Heisey released the book, really good actually, like a couple years ago. She is like a Toronto comedian who now lives in London, right?
Yes.
Like she's friends with Dolly Alderton, and it's kind of like that kind of vibe of a book. It's about a woman who gets divorced, but she got married young, so it's kind of like a divorce novel. But I think she's like 30, so it's interesting. Like that's a cool hit, whatever. And it takes place in Toronto, and the amount of fucking bro, you're 45 and you're bitching that somebody stole your joke for a book, and I'm like, bro. So
what?
Actually, the funny thing about writing is that sometimes people say something and you go, that's interesting, I'm gonna make a character say that. Like books really are kind of like a scrapbook of moments of observations. Like that child doing LSD isn't like Joan Didion fucking stole my essay.
No, it's weird.
Like to write, you quite literally observe and then tell.
Yeah, I just don't know. Like, this is why we have no like new classic things, because we don't get things repeated back to us a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it's really like, it's kind of interesting. We have so much content where it's like, people talk about like old SNL, people think is so good because like you just see the same like
characters,
hit sketches again and again. Like if a sketch does really well, you see it so many times. Whereas now people are like, it sucks, but it's like, it's because you have access to like everything they put on TV that night. That never used to be the case.
Yeah, and also like, you know, you had these iconic characters because there wasn't like replays, right? So like you're like, we have to do Debbie Downer again because people can't go on YouTube and watch the original thing.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
they did on SNL, one of my literal favorite comedy bits of the last 20 years, Lisa from Temecula, where Ego Nwodim is cutting up a steak that's tough and spilling everything on the table. And then they redid it again and people were like, it's not funny. And it's like, well, yeah, it's not funny because you've watched the original one 3 times.
Yeah, exactly.
But you do a reoccurring bit when you couldn't rewatch it.
So
he puts out a cover record.
Yeah, so he has his debut album, which is called Bob Dylan.
And I love that.
And it's got a traditional folk, blues, gospel. But he's got 2 original compositions, which is Talkin' New York and Song to Woody, which is
the one
Song
that he's
to Woody Guthrie.
Woody Guthrie. Hey, Woody Guthrie.
Hey, Woody Guthrie.
We've got to start. This is what I was thinking watching the movie, because he goes and like visits Woody Guthrie in the hospital. I gotta seek out my idols.
I know.
Why am I not doing that?
I was thinking that, where I'm like, it's crazy that he just walked into the hospital room. Like, I can't go visit a family member without getting like screened for guns.
I know.
Which is like a good thing. But
yeah,
like,
we need it, obviously.
I know. I want to seek out an idol this year. That should be a goal for us.
Yeah. Because I don't think Margaret Atwood is like an idol of mine, but I'm like, she lives in this neighborhood. Like,
oh yeah, no, you could find.
Should I just go to her house?
Yeah, you could totally just go to her house. I remember I used to know where she bought weed.
I love that.
It was crazy. No, she's a girl about town.
Yes.
So Bob Dylan, he puts out this album and he's like, it's like fine, you know, but he's getting like a pretty good reputation. Like people around town are getting to know him.
Because he's performing as well.
He's performing. This is the kind of time where that shit mattered.
Ugh.
Wow. He then moves into recording more things that are like protest song.
Yeah.
Like, the one I'm thinking of that I'm forgetting, which is Blowing in the Wind. Jesus Christ, the biggest song he made.
What's it fucking called again?
What's it called? What's that one called again? Yeah, it's like Blowing in the Wind. Times They Are Changing. Like, you know, having these really kind of like protesty songs, which is also kind of like the mood for folk music at that time.
Definitely kind of this idea of like capturing. It was interesting watching the movie being like, wow, boomers really existed in this time where like things really felt possible and they were really like wanting to change things.
I can change the world with my song.
And then just kind of like stopped.
Yeah, they were like, actually, this is really tiring.
They were like, let's stop war. And then they hit like 50 and were like, I'm going to yell at a cashier, actually.
The real war is the war on me getting my groceries in a timely manner.
Exactly.
So he is gaining more notoriety. He goes over to London. He does a bunch of stuff in England, and then he comes back and he records the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, which is his album that he drops in 1963, which is his like big famous album where like he's walking looking cold with his girlfriend.
I love that record. That's my favorite.
It's a great record.
I love folk Dylan.
Yeah,
and
folk Dylan.
There's like such a funny joke about that. This is not my idea. This is not my joke. I think it's like a tweet or something about Bob Dylan, but it's being like, it's Bob Dylan like wrote all these like socialist songs when he was like dating that socialist painter who was like working part-time with like civil rights like offices and like really into like desegregation and no war and all this stuff. And then like they broke up and he was like, never mind.
I don't
like
really care
never
about
talked about it again. Like didn't really give a fuck.
That is the role of women in these men's lives.
Like to like try and soft launch the idea of compassion to them. And he's like, because I was reading an interview this was actually with Joan Baez, but she was saying that like she would go to protests and people would be like, where's Dylan? And she was like, I really wanted to be like, he doesn't care about this.
No, he doesn't care. Which is like, sure, just admit it.
Yeah, that's the thing I rub up against. Well, that's kind of more perverse. I bump up against with Dylan.
I rub up against.
Of like, I was saying this to you where it's like the same way I feel about the book A Little Life, where it's like the work itself, yes, has merit, whatever, but like the way it's presented is an issue to me.
Yeah.
Of like this like idea of being like, just because for A Little Life, it's like just because this thing is the saddest thing ever, it immediately holds merit. Like just if you write about abuse happening 10 times, that's inherently important. I don't know if I agree with that. And with Dylan, I'm like, the songs are great, but this idea of him being like this soothsayer voice of a generation when in reality he's like a really good musician who's an opportunist is weird to me.
Well, it's kind of like one of those things where like I think he gets kind of unfairly, maybe not unfairly because I think it was a curated image, but like he's an excellent songwriter, an excellent lyricist who kind of gets like put in this way of like, oh, he's really kind of like a voice of a generation. It's like, no, he's a really good poet.
A voice of a generation.
He's a voice of a generation. And like his songwriting is extremely good. And he says like he's got songs that are incredible, but he's not necessarily like revolutionary in the way of like his politics. You know what I mean?
I agree. And I think that is where it's like, it's the same reason when people are like, I agree that like real people can't queer bait. But there are people who make money and push their career forward in this kind of gray area of like, ooh, am I queer? Am I not?
Yeah.
It's the same thing like reading that book where Joan Didion was kind of upset that like her image was so closely tied to the success of her books. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's how it succeeds. Like, yeah. So with him, I'm like, I agree. And I think, there's a real tragic arc to Dylan. He clearly just like likes music, and I think he'd actually be a lot happier as like a session musician, or like a mid-tier kind of famous folk singer, only famous.
Who, Bob Dylan?
Yeah, I think he would be more happier in that place,
probably.
But he did like the basis of Dylan getting famous. Like he did play into that. Like he curated that image of being like, I am really important and have a lot of important things to say. And maybe it was the wrong choice if he was unhappy with how that turned out. Yeah. Because in reality, I think like the only thing for me that's redeeming about, I'm not redeeming, but as a character as opposed to a person, right? Yeah. Is like he does just fucking love music. And I'm like, that's better. Like you said, like just admit it. Like,
yeah, I agree. It's interesting too, because a lot of his music became representative for people of like, obviously like the tension of the 60s and also like particularly like a couple of his songs took off around like the Cuban Missile Crisis and just like this fear of like nuclear war, which is a really interesting thing. I know. Like obviously, like I think we all fear nuclear war, but I think the 60s in particular, everyone was like, it will happen and it's going to happen in a couple of years.
I mean, yeah, I really thought about this the other day for the first time and I was like, it's crazy. It hasn't happened yet. Like it's going to happen in my lifetime. Like
horrifying.
If anything, maybe it's good that Russia has been fixing the U.S. election.
Just so we don't piss them off too much?
Yeah, just so they don't absolutely nuke us. We just got to get North Korea on board.
Yeah, exactly.
So he records freewheeling Bob Dylan.
Freewheeling Bob Dylan. So that comes out. This kind of like solidifies him as like really kind of like a dude, right? Yeah. And then he starts to go electric. This is cuckoo crazy, right?
Yeah.
He records the big song that kind of signals his change is like a Rolling Stone. Yeah. Which is where A Complete Unknown comes out of, like a Rolling Stone.
I love my favorite part of the movie because there's like so many fun like musician biopic like tropes. And my favorite was the guy who was the extra guitar player they hired being like, I want to play, man. I'll get on the organ. Yeah. And then just immediately, like, I know obviously because they're like condensing it for time, just immediately does like the iconic opening to a Rolling Stone.
That is basically how it happened though.
I read about it and it was like the third time, but still. Yeah.
Like he just came in and they were like, okay, we literally just have this for you to play. And he was like, okay. And he improvised it, which is so cool. Yeah. Like, I also love that his name is Al Cooper. Like, dude, you're always gonna be the second Al Cooper.
I didn't even think about
Because of
that.
Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
No, I had a moment watching that movie. I was like, Alice Cooper was in Bob Dylan's band, and I was like, I'm stupid.
I really liked the actor who played Bob Dylan's kind of like, what was that guy's name?
Bestie?
Bob Newart?
Yes.
I thought that actor was so fucking good.
No.
Where is he from? He's from Daisy Jones and the Six.
Shut up.
He's fucking Will or whatever.
Oh my God, I didn't even put that together
I
at
just
all.
realized that now.
Oh my God.
He's good.
Yeah, he's
Well, they
great.
also had the other guitarist who never speaks, is from the Gossip Girl reboot.
No,
When they're
that's
like,
so
we already
funny.
have a good guitarist. They like panned to him once, and I was like, that's Otto Bergman III from HBO's Gossip Girl 2022.
Oh God, I want to watch
whatever.
that, but I'm so
You
scared.
should. I'll watch it with you if you
I
want
think
to watch the first
it's
episode.
terrible, isn't it?
It's so bad.
Oh
But
my
it's
God.
like good. I think the problem is like things are too high quality now where people were like, this is not as good as the original. Like the original is also bad. Like
No, but the original just has like an air of cunt to it that you can't replicate. That's like
yeah, I think that was
That's the
it.
tricky
The
part.
problem is it falls off the wagon a bit in the first season. The second season I think is a little bit better where it tries to like make them they make them kind of like woke and you're like I really just want to watch like horrible rich people be kind of horrible. Like
yeah, exactly.
that's all I really want. But it's fun if we want to. We can watch the pilot together if you want to.
Rich people are not woke. That's also like I think the Gossip Girl really nailed that in the original one.
Yeah.
So I think trying to be woke in the next one, it's like it's not gonna happen.
Well, it was like I mean I watched the Pretty Little Liars reboot and I love Pretty Little Liars and have like a real nostalgia for it and I didn't like it and a lot of people did and I was like well yeah because I'm not fucking 12. Like
Yeah, exactly. It's not made for you.
no
It's not for your demo.
because they're not wearing 2010 clothes so I'm already pissed.
So obviously I'm gonna be angry.
Yeah.
So Bob Dylan records like a Rolling Stone. They try it in like 3-4 times, like in a folk style, and it just like doesn't work. He's like
They speed it
disappointed
up.
with it. Yeah, and then they basically are like, what if we recorded it like a rock song? And that's when
Cool.
it starts to pull together. And it's Dylan going electric.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. And like we talk about it again in the Beatles thing where like they met and like right after that John Lennon starts trying to write like Bob Dylan and Bob Dylan goes electric and it's wow.
It's interesting. Yeah.
What an amazing time.
Well, it seemed
what a
like
meeting of
Dylan
minds.
post fame, like him and John Lennon are very similar where I don't think that like fame necessarily like agreed with them where he wasn't very happy being famous. Like he likes music. He's
Bob Dylan?
yeah, he's
Yeah.
in pursuit of what the next thing is. And I think part of the reason he went electric, and this is a guess, like, and I don't know, but like I would imagine it's also like it's quite lonely to be the only person up there with like a guitar, where if like you travel with a band,
Oh yeah.
you're like, I'm with friends, I get to talk about music, I get to do all these things.
I read, oh my God, I forget where I read it. It was some type of review on the movie where it's like, there's a scene in the movie where like, they're like Pete Seeger is watching Bob Dylan perform Times Are Changing at the folk festival.
Yeah.
And someone wrote that, oh my God, I can't remember if it was a real review or like one of my dad's friends on Facebook.
Which is
but,
a real
like-
review.
And it's a real review. But like it was saying like Pete Seeger's watching him sing the song Times They Are Changing, like so inspired by like the lyrics without really like internalizing what it actually means. It's like the times are turning away from you.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, that is crazy a little bit. Where it's like, I think something that Bob Dylan did in his career was really just follow the music he wanted to make, which is so like corny, but it's like, you can relate it to so many conversations where you just see people who try and make the same thing that have got them success in the past.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think it does take guts to just follow, like, this is what I want to make. And like,
Definitely.
if it's less popular, I will like sit in that and let it happen.
I really like, and this, I looked it up afterwards to see, because it happened in the movie, like if it was real, and it didn't happen. In the movie, they have it happen at the Newport Folk Festival when he goes electric. This happened at a later date when he was playing electric and the audience was freaking out and booing.
Yeah.
And he goes to the audience and he goes, I don't believe you. Play loud to his band or whatever. And I was like, oh, that fucking rocks. Because there's been times where even, and I obviously am not as talented as Dylan, where like people have reacted some way and I'm like, I don't believe you.
I don't believe you.
I think
No,
we
don't
actually
believe
think
you
this is really
this.
good.
Yeah.
I don't believe
Think you guys don't know. You
Play
kids,
loud.
you kids are gonna love this in a few years. Back to the Future.
Well, it's also so fucking stupid because I knew, you know, the whole thing of like people freaking out because Dylan goes electric, but I didn't know the details of it. So seeing
Yeah.
the movie, he plays like literally 3 songs and then does an encore of 2 folk songs. It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. And he plays something else, but they only have him do Baby Blue in the movie. And I'm like, first of all, not to be like, I know if you're talking to people who are really into music, it's not the same thing. But for somebody who's just like a passive lover of music, but not like a person who participates in it, I'm like, bitch, this is so fucking close to folk. Like, this is really close.
That's what's actually crazy about it.
And Johnny Cash played electric too. I'm like, so how the fuck is this different than Johnny Cash? Like, respectfully explain it to me.
It's so funny looking back and be like,
he's playing 15 minutes of kind of loosely electric country music. Like, what are you talking about?
This is where I will admit my greatest shame, which is that like I didn't really even realize that like a Rolling Stone was when he had gone electric. I was like, this is still folk.
Yes.
But it's because now we know folk to have electric elements to it.
Yes.
And be like pop folk or whatever. So I didn't even register. I was like, bitch, this is a folk song. Like,
I
what
felt
are we
the
doing?
same when he played it. I was like, what?
What? That's what we were talking about when we said Dylan went electric.
And like, again, speaking as somebody who like the freewheeling Bob Dylan is like that's my Dylan record. I also like It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. But like, I like really kind of sparse produced. I like acoustic stuff. Like I do.
You like an acoustic vibe.
But like, I'm like, bitch, this is the same thing. And people are throwing cans? Like, dude, what?
He's got one electric guitar. I know.
I don't believe.
But you know what? It's so crazy. And I'll say this because I was talking to you. I have a lot of like an above average amount of interaction with folk communities and folk singers.
The way you flirt with doxing yourself.
I know, but guys, it's fine. It's gonna happen one day. But like I'm around a lot of folk music.
Yes.
I'm around a lot of folk musicians, and that is the fucking vibe.
Yeah.
Like even today in 2025, damn. But like that is how it is, where it's just like that's not really folk, or like their folk is like too poppy, or like that's like blah, blah, like the lyrics don't mean anything. And I'm like, what year is it?
Well, that's everything.
What
it
is
feels
this?
like. There's so much shit. I think it's really hard because some people are so capitalist and opportunist that it does destroy whatever they're making.
For sure.
But on the other, reactionary to that, because that happens, you then have people who really try to draw the line in the sand of what one thing is or what one other thing is. Like, as far as I'm concerned, in literature, I think the next kind of frontier is like, there's no difference between literary fiction and genre fiction, because we've been talking about it, how like literary fiction can become quite repetitive, like because the definition of what it is one thing. Yeah. When you think about the people that succeed in it are people who play outside the lines of genre, just are really good writers. Like, I don't know, when you think of like Margaret Atwood, Colson Whitehead, like most people who are very popular and talented literary fiction writers are just good genre fiction writers. So I feel like now we're going to get to a place where like that's what it is.
For sure.
There's people who are purists about that too. And
I'm like,
what? Why do you care?
Well, people invest in things. People see their identity in things. So if you try and change it, they want to protect it. Like, I get it, but it's like, God, fucking relax. Like, I do feel like there are some things where people are more open to different ways of doing things, and some things where people are really closed off. And I think whenever it's tied to like a level of intellectualism, it's gonna make it like worse, I think, because
when things are important.
When they're important. That's why like theater is really resistant to change. I think literature is really resistant to change. And then like folk music, where you've traditionally had like very intense kind of like lyrics and like a lyrical tradition.
Because comedy doesn't really have that. Like, comedy is 700 different things.
Because comedy's for stupid people.
Exactly. And you always have every single person has that thing where they're like, that's not comedy, that's fucking ass. Yeah. But like, then somebody else is like, that's not comedy, that's fucking ass. Like, exactly. Everybody has that. It's
a little bit more subjective.
Yes. I want to get into Joan Baez.
She's so good.
Yeah. I got like, I was absolutely fuming in the movie when like, so you guys should watch the movie. It's great.
It is really good.
You know, it's a music biopic.
They did a really good job at it, though.
And his story is interesting and it looks really good. Like, I went to see it.
It was gorgeous.
Because when those stills of Timothy Chalamet playing Bob Dylan came out, me and Reese were like, because Reese is a massive Bob Dylan fan, we're like laughing, laughing, just being like, he does not have it. Like, and he does. Like, when you watch it, it is really, really good. But we were like, oh my God, it's going to be so bad. We have to see it. And then it was quite good. And
he eats.
Same thing, because I saw it like right after Christmas. So like the movie theater was packed with just like, literally it was truly maybe like 80 people. And there was like maybe 6 of us were under the age of 50 and everybody else was like
amazing.
Kind of. And when the movie ends and they're just like playing the songs, like just so many people like staring at the screen, like listening, and I was like, this is
Aw,
really beautiful. Like
that's
this
really
music
nice.
has really touched these people.
Yeah, it's really
and
resonated.
continues to resonate with them. Like this literally happened 60 years ago.
Well, and it's also
That's
like Bob,
really crazy.
Bob Dylan is like what I like about a lot of music at that time, and like music of this, I would say like it's not singularly to the 60s, but like it outreaches to so many different people who were playing at the time. Like the fact that like Peter, Paul and Mary had a big hit with one of his songs, like Joan Baez covered a bunch of his songs, like the Mamas and the Papas were covering his songs. Like it is far reaching, which is a transition to my next point, which is then after he puts out the High Raise 61 Revisited, which is the album where he goes electric. He goes on a little tour. He was booked for 2 US concerts with Al Cooper and this other guy from his studio crew. And then they also are joined by Robbie Robertson and Levi Helm, who are former members of Ronnie Hawkins' backing band, The Hawks. Do you recognize Robbie Robertson or Levi Helm?
Yeah, Robbie Robertson. Is he not from the band?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is Bob Dylan's backing band.
Right, becomes
the band.
Is the band. I forgot about that.
Because they come from Robbie Hawkins' bands, The Hawks, and then they tour with Dylan. They're performing with Dylan all the time, and then they become their own band, and that is the band.
That's the band.
And like songs from Big Pink. Big Pink is like Bob Dylan was hanging out at Big Pink with the band all the time. It's actually crazy. Like it is so interesting how it like moves into each other.
Yeah.
And so he tours the US and Canada for 6 months, and he's backed by the 5 musicians from the Hawks who become known as the band, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's insane.
And I love the band.
And that checks out.
And I honestly,
I love the band too, but
I know questionable lyrics, but the night they drove Old Dixie down, damn. Oh God, that'll make me cry.
They're great. They're really, really good. And again, like, I don't know. I hold a big place in my heart for bands just in general. It's really fun to like listen to people. We just have so much now, and I get it, whatever, but of like
really focus in.
One person doing everything.
Yes.
And it's really nice to be like, oh, well, in this part they just came in and they were like, I don't know, can you do something with the piano? And then they do, like, it's really cool.
It is really cool. Like it's something I hope we go back to that soon. I think it's quietly happening.
I think it will. I want a super group.
Yeah.
Give us a super group.
That's what I'm saying. That's why Boy Genius was so fun.
Yeah.
I like didn't really get it until I saw them live, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. This is
it's
like
the Traveling Wilburys or whatever.
Exactly.
Like it's just like, oh, you get to see all these people who are really good together.
Yeah, exactly. So then in 1965 in November, Bob Dylan quietly gets married and doesn't really tell anyone, and like immediately denies being married. It's very weirdly.
He's strange.
And then the New York Post declares the news public with the headline, "Hush, Bob Dylan is wed." In 1966. The writer on that article, Nora Ephron, sure.
Yes, girl!
Nora Ephron breaking the news
of
Bob Dylan's marriage. And then also in 1966, Bob Dylan, he crashes his motorcycle near his home in Woodstock. He said he broke several vertebrae in his neck. But like it's very kind of like foggy details around the actual accident. Like an ambulance wasn't called. He didn't go to the hospital. Very weird.
Well, he also loves a lie. There's literally no one in the world that loves a lie more than Bob Dylan.
I do believe that
I think it happened, but I just mean that you saying like he said he broke these vertebrae. I'm like, could be anything.
Could be anything.
Anything could have happened.
Anything could have happened. Because it was after just like going on an absolutely grueling tour that made him very miserable. And he was like on all sorts of like amphetamines to keep him going. Like people around him were sort of like, this tour is really bad for Bob Dylan. And then after his crash, he didn't tour again for 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And so after that, like his career is a lot of just like touring and recording different music. He goes through a phase where he writes a lot of music that's really in like the Judeo-Christian tradition.
Well,
which
because
is really
he was
cool.
like a born-again Christian and then also became like a born-again Jew.
Yeah.
And then I think he became a born-again Christian again.
Yeah. Like he's all over the place.
He's really looking for himself.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting because like one of my favorite Bob Dylan covers of all time is All Along the Watchtower. I think is like regarded as the ultimate best cover song ever, which was covered by Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
And the lyrics to that are so traditionally like Christian, like they're really, really traditional.
Yeah.
In terms of like trying to get out, like it's like a journey, like an epic journey out of hell, basically, is these lyrics, which is really, really cool. And so obviously like the conclusion of like his big thing is that he won the Nobel Prize in Literature for his songwriting.
Yeah.
Because of, and I wrote down the quote, because of his contributions Oh my God, where did I write it? Okay, so he won the Nobel Prize for having created new poetic expressions within the great American song tradition.
I think that's true.
I would agree with. I think it's good that he got that.
There for him. When it happened, I was like, this makes sense. I don't think that this is whatever. I will say, have you read his novel?
No.
It's horrible.
I will not read it.
It's actually, I got it at B&B when we were together. One time when we were looking at like, we were in like the basement with all the like vinyl.
Oh, okay.
They have like books written by musicians down there too, and like
that's cool.
Biographies and whatever. And I picked it up, and it's like actually unreadable. And I'm like, this is so interesting because I know you to be a good writer, but just can't translate it. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think he's done like a lot for writing. I mean, I think a lot of my feelings for him also kind of bump up against like it's not his fault. It's like I have to ride so hard for Joni Mitchell, who doesn't like him.
Yeah,
because she was like, I'm just as good as him. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, but like in different ways. Like you're fine.
But I get it. You know what I mean? Like I'd be mad too.
Yeah, and she's just kind of bitter.
Yes.
Period.
And I get it.
But
like, girl, you're also so famous.
You're fine.
Like, come on, girl.
Yes.
Like that whole like. I really group in, and maybe this is again because I'm Canadian, but I really group like Joni Mitchell, Neil Young, like Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, like all these kind of like folky, rocky, like.
I know. I'm like, oh, you're from the Great Plains.
Yeah. I'm just like, you guys are all like
from
the same
prairies.
To me. You're all from the prairies.
Well, have you heard this story of, so Neil Young has a house like in, where he grew up in Winnipeg. And Bob Dylan like was a huge Neil Young fan and just showed up. This is like a Winnipeg story, and just showed up to like because a new family lives in it, and Bob Dylan just showed up to this like family's house, and like I don't know if it was like the 80s or the 90s. It was like, this is where Neil Young was grew up. Can I just like look around? Because and they were like, yeah, sure.
Like, yeah,
but it's just imagine like we were a knock at the door, and it's just like, sorry, Blair, Bob Dylan's here.
Yeah.
Bob and I will say, obviously, I'm not a huge concert person. Although I was thinking of, and let me know if you feel this, I want to see if Kendrick and SZA announce that Doechii is opening for them,
that
and then
I would lose my mind. I would go that at 100%.
Okay, but the Neil Young concert I went to was maybe the best concert I've ever been to, because
really
it's just like going to a concert in the 70s where it's like these are just guys jamming on the guitar.
Neil Young, Kelvin High School legend,
literally.
Winnipeg.
And it is just like the Canadian of it all. Like famously, like Canadian crowds are very good because we're given crumbs in terms of representation. So anytime anybody's like Toronto, we're like, yes.
Winnipeg.
And anytime he would like one time Neil Young just like turned around at that concert and was like, that's a Canadian sky, whatever. And everyone was like, yes, it is. So that was fun.
I feel like we should put something on the podcast that says we're Canadian, because I feel like
we
don't say it enough.
I know.
We don't say it enough.
The thing that's weird is like, I think a lot of people listening to this podcast wouldn't know that we're Canadian.
Exactly.
We don't talk
about it enough. But yeah, I love Neil Young. I will also say, personal anecdote, Bob Dylan, the year he released his Christmas album, the MacMillans, went absolutely crazy with bullying this man. I'm going to be so honest. It was
Bob Dylan slander year.
All we heard that year was the Bob Dylan Christmas album. I went to my uncle's house. He was playing it on loop, and he was like, we aren't allowed to play any other Christmas music other than the Bob Dylan Christmas album. And then my dad was doing it too. But they were like, this is so bad. Like, we just sit around and be like, this sucks.
And they're like, but we can't play anything else.
We can't play anything else. This is Bob Dylan Christmas year.
Wow.
So that was like a real time.
I love that.
But anyway, that's pretty much all I have. Because
I love that.
After that, he just he rocks around. Also, this was just like kind of a very chatty welcome to the new year of the pod episode, which is fun. But I do have I
wanted to say I have two stories quick ones about people that I know who saw Bob Dylan
huge
in the modern day. One is, he put this in his Letterboxd review, but it's like a comedian we know.
Yeah.
And he went to see Bob Dylan in Buffalo like in 2014, and Bob Dylan played a whole song where he just hit a wrench on the microphone over and over again.
And good.
And Reese's sister and his dad went to go see Bob Dylan in like Woodstock or something like that.
Nice.
And he showed up like an hour late, and you could not understand him, and performed for 15 minutes and then left.
That's you.
I know.
That's
I'm like,
I
kind of love it, because I'm like, it's interesting. This man loves to tour and doesn't care about being good at it at all.
Yeah.
Like, cares so much about music, but it's just like, I'm here for you fuckers. I'm here to collect my check. And
I don't really
leave.
care. Yeah. Respect.
Okay, shall we?
Okay.
I mean, let's make this tragedy about us.
It's not even really a tragedy.
No, he's still very much alive,
He's
and doing well.
Not tragic. Okay, here's my question for you. So Bob Dylan went from folk to electric, which was like a big shift.
Yeah.
what would be your like big rebrand that would like shock and get
Ooh.
people angry?
Oh, okay, get people angry.
Or like maybe some people are with you,
But
some
I know
people are
what you
against
mean.
you.
It's
like
like
it's not you
when they're,
shifting
like-
into like mega.
No, but it's like them being like, this is gonna upset some people.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's really okay. Maybe like, well, I guess because again, it should also be like forward thinking because that's also part of it as well.
Yeah, like you can't regress.
I can't regress. I've got to move forward in a way
Yeah,
that's really
you can't become a
isolating to some
booktuber
people.
again.
No, or I can't. I was thinking like it could be fun to do like 2014 kind of comedy songs. Like, did you ever watch Paint?
No.
He like would write songs being like the real Disney princesses.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
it would be like one. I remember the one they wrote about Princess Jasmine was that the CIA killed Aladdin because they didn't know that Al Qaeda wasn't there or something like that. I don't know. It's a different time.
Hey.
Oh, sorry.
Are you okay?
I saw that plant. And I thought it was
and
a
it
head.
scared you?
I thought it was a head. I thought somebody was looking in. It really fucking scared me. Oh my god, what is wrong with me?
No, this is the type of beat I've been on all week, to be honest. I'm like so paranoid. I'm seeing fucking shadows, dude. It's bad.
I know.
I'm like, what is going on?
Okay, maybe it's a what do I think the future is? Okay, maybe it's like I just start making like really kind of like Woody Allen-esque overproduced monologuing like TikToks. You know what I mean? Like it's all this B-roll of me. It's like, I walked to the store today and I thought, why do they put prices on some things at grocery stores and not other things? Like, and it's just kind of everyone's like, okay. But some people are like, yes.
Yeah.
You know what I
that
mean? Like
makes
I'm kind of
sense.
making like pseudo film content for TikTok, but
Yeah.
it's like still very much TikToks, you know?
Yeah. I like that. Honestly, that's kind of what I was thinking to say for mine.
Oh, okay, what was
so
it?
I'll pivot. Oh, it was just going to be like kind of like guerrilla filmmaking style comedy where it's like
That's different.
like I don't put a time signature on it and you think it's going to be like a 1 minute thing and it's an hour long. Which is like
I like that.
like using like the blindness of the internet.
Yes.
Cuz have you heard about this new app that they're launching? I forget the name of it. I feel like it's a planet. It's like Neptune or something. Have you heard of this?
No.
It's an app where they're taking away like like counts and view counts on stuff. So it's just like purely based on like what is like
Watch time or
what you
whatever?
want to watch.
I love that.
It's kind of interesting. I feel like it probably will fail, but if it doesn't, that could be really cool.
I mean, I take the like count off of everything I post on YouTube
Oh yeah?
because
That's
I
smart.
just think like if I could take the view count off, I would. Like I just don't think that forward-facing analytics are important.
Well,
Like,
it's-
why should it
yeah.
matter to you how much view? Like, it makes sense that it should matter to me on the back end. But I don't
Yeah.
understand, like, that's why podcasting is interesting. Because, like,
Yeah.
viewers don't know how popular something is. So you're more likely
To
to
engage
watch
with it.
something that's less popular because you don't know.
Yeah.
Because you're looking for social proof. So if you just go, like, oh, I'm going to watch something that has 1 million views on YouTube because I know 1 million people have watched it.
And so it's probably good. It's like, oh, well.
It's like, I think it's more interesting. Where,
Yeah,
again,
for
like you
sure.
said, I would love it if that worked. I don't know if
Yeah.
it does, but.
I don't know if it does either.
Or
but yeah.
I can make a big transition into just doing kind of like pseudo Joan Didion but bad essays.
Yes.
I'm just an essayist now. But it's like I'm not really good at it.
Clock's counting down until I become an essayist.
I think
to be
about this all the
honest.
time.
It's like rough.
I know.
It's rough.
I know.
I think my thing would be that I paywall all of everything I do.
I love that.
Ever behind a Substack.
I love that.
But like
That's tempting to me.
it is kind of like, and we were talking
My
about
stuff
this
is
a
not
little
for the
bit.
Gen Pop anymore.
Well, because it is a little bit like, I do think that like in this era where we're like paying out the ass for streaming services and YouTube Premium and all this stuff is sort of like, what if I paywalled everything? I would pay like $1 to $3 for every creator I wanted to see stuff from because I'm already paying that money anyway, but to a conglomerate that
Yeah.
then they only get a portion of it too. So
No,
I'm like,
totally. And you get to really see what people want to do. Like I love Patreons.
yeah,
Because I'm like, okay, you're making weird niche casual content. It's not edited out the ass because it's for people that want to see it. Like
yeah,
I do think that's the future in some way. I don't know exactly what it is because you still need ways for people to find your stuff. But like
yeah.
I really do think
There's a
that's
world.
there's a world.
There's a world that's coming where more people get money directly and less is going to like random kind of like faceless companies, but still stuff is accessible for free, I think is also important.
Definitely. And not
Because
to
the
be
internet.
catastrophic. I just think that AI will actually decimate the internet if it doesn't kill us.
Yeah.
So I think that people will want to subscribe to newspapers and whatever just because the internet's going to get so fucking destroyed.
Yeah. Well, and like you're paying this money anyway. That's what drives me crazy is that people are like, oh, I don't want to pay it. It's like, but you're paying these things anyway.
Yeah.
Like you're paying for this stuff.
Yeah, the
already.
Capitalism has just convinced you that your time isn't money.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I installed, this is boring, we can cut this, but I've installed like a really massive ad blocker that I pay for that actually blocks every single ad. And then it reports to you how much, because I was listening to a podcast that was talking about how like one of the greatest movements like nowadays of like conscientious objectors is to like not allow yourself to be advertised to every moment every day. I know I was saying this on a podcast with ads or whatever is hypocritical, but it is like, I don't know. I think we got to move away from companies being able to profit off of creators and allowing creators to profit off of their own work. But until we get there.
Well, that's the thing. And guys, like, to be honest, like, yeah, there's ads on the podcast because that's how we can keep making it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we can't do this live.
I know. Bro, I wish, but it's just like, there's no way. Like,
my other answer though would be I just start a punk band.
I would love that.
Like really out of left field and like force it to perform before every improv show we do. And I'm like, I'm combining the punk music scene with comedy and
we're like,
mad.
we don't like this.
We're like, please, it's really, really loud. I kind of just like, you guys take forever to set up the drum kit.
You guys, why are you taking it apart?
Yeah.
You can't put it back together.
Exactly. And
so I don't understand why you're taking it apart every time.
And on that note, so excited for this year, Carly.
I know.
Another banger year that we're about to begin. We're at the precipice
of something great.
I
hope.
Hey. You know.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye guys. We love you. Bye.
Love you.